Me, I'm starting. Hello. Greetings, everybody. We had a challenge here a while ago. I all, literally lost everything, all internet service. So I had to sort of try to get a hard connection, hoping that this is much better and that you guys can actually follow me. Now, I know I may have lost a number of people there because my first notice went out and you guys were ready for 4:30, and then here I am at what time is it? Almost another hour thereafter, and I'm trying to reconnect 45 minutes thereafter. But let me just welcome you guys. If you see this, please just extend it to your friends. I'm asking you to send it out to your friends, your colleagues. I'm hoping that the connection is much better. Let me apologize to those of you who were already waiting, sitting and waiting for this discussion. Let me know if you can hear me very clearly. That's very important to me. Uh, that you guys can hear me clearly enough so that I can know what to do. I am doing this from another location, not my normal area where I sit online. So that's probably why I've had to make a few changes in quick time. But bear with me. I'm hoping again, as I said, that you can hear me. So if you can, please share the live, share the live, share the live. We need to have a lot of people here to, just to discuss this matter of very importance really to Dominica, to the world, to the Caribbean. It is a real life issue that I'm about to discuss here with you tonight. It's gender-based violence. That's the issue, and I really want to get your thoughts, but also to share. I think for me, the important thing is not to create another, is not to create sensation. I think for me, the important thing here is to extend a bit of education on the matter. Education in the context of what is gender-based violence, what is intimate partner violence, um, some of the effects of that on society, on people, on life in general, who we are as a people. Um, so I really want to talk about it. Now, do note that I will put here my disclaimer that I am not an expert on gender based violence, but I believe that my background in sociology with some psychology allows me to be able to deliberate on this matter a bit, and of course to shed some light on it based on some basic I call it basic research. It's not an in-depth uh, preparation or presentation, but I'm hoping that you can truly get something out of what I'm about to share with you tonight. So again, I'm going to ask you to please extend this, share the live with your friends. If you can send this to your friends, let me know by in comment, somebody, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are. Let me know if you can hear me very clearly so that I can go ahead and start the presentation. I think it's very crucial, very important that we have that level of feedback. And if you do have any comments or questions, feel free to send them. I am alone, so I don't have a techie, a person who is assisting me. Um, yeah, this is crazy. I just put we feedback on this. Um, I really meant to say we are on, we are live. Yes. So yes, I say just share the live, share it with people, send them out. In the meantime, let me extend a happy New Year greetings to all of you. Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I'm really gonna try to just talk a little bit on gender-based violence, as I said. But before that, let me just extend a happy New Year to all of you. A happy 2023. For all of us, it has started in a very dark way in the sense of the bad news that we received in our little island in the end of the year. And even in the new year, we're hearing of other things that are concerning, where the whole matter of respect for life and humanity is of concern. And so this is really why I'm here today, just to share with you some basic information. As I said to you earlier, I am not an expert on gender based violence. I am not an expert, but I do intend to share my thoughts on it. As I said, my background in sociology with a minor in psychology allows me some knowledge, you could say, gives me some knowledge that allows me to share with you. And so we will go through tonight just some basic information on what is gender-based violence, what is intimate partner violence, and what we can do, what can we do rather about this matter as a society, as individuals, as people living in the community. You know, it's one thing to say, oh, it's happening, it's not happening to me, it's not happening to my mother, my but the point is we are all living in a society that we 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 are affected by what our neighbor, or we should be. If we don't care, then we don't care, but we should be somehow affected or somehow impacted or somehow concerned about what our neighbors are going through, if not us, or somebody who may have confided in us that we know of, so I think it's very important that we have that level of discussion tonight as to what is gender-based violence and how does it impact us as a society. So feel free to put your comments in there as well. I know all of you have been concerned. I do not know the victims, the most recent victims of gender-based violence in Dominica. I do not know them personally, so I have no stake in it to say, well, oh, it's because it's her cousin or her brother or her sister. Or no, I do not have any. I do not know the individuals, but for me, it's not about knowing them. It's just knowing that they are Dominicans, they are people, fellow human beings. They are women. I am a woman, fellow women. And of course, there are men involved. And I have brothers and I have nephews and I had a father. I have uncles, and I do not want any of them to be either the perpetrator nor the victim of something like that. Neither do I want myself to be any to fall prey rather to something of that sort. So gender-based violence, right off the bat, folks, we know it is real and it is existing. And to bury our heads in the sand and say, oh, it's not my business, it's not what Christianity is all about. As a person who profess to follow Christ myself, as a professed Christian, I personally think I have a responsibility to speak up and to talk about it as well and to share my thoughts on it. So tonight is more basic education in my view of what it is, and hoping that as I said, I'm not an expert, but hoping I can shed some light on the matter as a fellow Dominican. All right. So here we go. Right off, I want to say that we ought to be joining the everybody who is speaking about gender-based violence. We ought to be lending our voices to this concern. I know that there are a number of folks out there. Dr. Wallace, I see you there, and I thank you for being a part of the audience today. I I know that a number of locally based Dominicans as well have been championing the cause, and later on I will mention some of them. But I want to let you know that I'm personally joining my voice in saying that gender-based violence is destructive and it is not good for our society, and anybody can fall prey to it if we're not careful. And so it's vital that we all join our voices to say, to condemn the acts that have happened in recent times to our women, to our children who have been left without parents as well, and also to our society, because it is very much a bad publicity for a society, regardless of what country, what place, what village, what town. All right. So I think we should all join our voices and say we need to stop gender based violence. So everybody's saying gender based violence. What is it? What is gender based violence? I want to ask you to please share the live with many people. Let people know. Hi, Nurse. It's good to have you, Nurse Parilo. I see some wonderful folks here already, so it's great to have you guys. Gender-based violence, it refers to a harmful act or harmful acts directed at an individual, and it is based on their gender. Now, I know there is a term sex, which is just male and female. It has a lot to do with our genitalia, whether we're born as a female, whether we're born as a male, and people can identify us as that. Of course, we know that these days there is talk of all sorts of other sexes, but I'll just zoom on these two as far as I know, male and female. And but we know that gender goes beyond just our sex. Gender talks about the roles that we as human, as woman, as man play in society, in the home, the role that we are given based on the society within which we live. So that has a lot to do with culture. It has a lot to do with politics. It has a lot to do with what what mode and modes and norms that the society is ruled and controlled and directed by, what laws as well. Okay, so when we say gender here, we're not just talking about male and female, we're talking about also, well, yeah, we're talking about, the roles of these, the male, the female, in the society. And so gender-based violence, as I said, it refers to harmful acts. I want us to see the word harmful, because definitely it's harm that it's causing to another person. It is rooted in gender inequality and the abuse of power and harmful norms. Very often, unfortunately, it is done by people in power. And if we know the culture of most of the world right now, is that a lot of the power is held by male. So, for example, we know of countries where women's rights for education is being just huffed from them. That is a human right, and that is being taken away from them. It's a form of inequality, it's a form of abuse of power, and definitely it is a harmful norm. Gender-based violence, my friends, is a serious violation of the human rights and life-threatening health and protection issues. And clearly we have seen that people lost their lives. Right off the bat, we know 2 women have gone down to the grave, or maybe not physically buried, but they have died. They have been murdered. Their lives have been huffed or taken from them. And one sister is currently battling for her life at our local hospital. So we know these are not things that we should just, bury our heads about, but we should acknowledge that they are life-threatening and they create serious impact on our health system as well. And of course, protection issues for women, for men, for boys, for girls, for people, for fellow human beings. Gender-based violence has been defined by the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women as violence that is directed against a woman because she's a woman, and because she's a woman, or that affects women disproportionately. So just because the person is a woman and may be seen as a lesser in the society, especially in very patriarchal societies, societies that are sort of ruled and governed by male, to a large extent, the woman is seen as second-class citizens, and as a result, are very much vulnerable to violence that are directed towards them. So that violence includes acts that implicit physical, mental, or sexual harm or suffering. It creates threats of such acts and coercion and other deprivations of liberty. So these are some of the things that some of the ways rather that gender-based violence are manifested, you could say, through physical pains and wounds, mental or sexual harm or suffering, threats being made that people will harm the person physically or rape them sexually and that sort of thing. Coercion, trying to even probably not just coerce people into maybe doing something that you want them to do, but also maybe getting, trying to brainwash or blackmail people. For example, when we see young ladies are being held hostage by, videos being made by other people, and say, if you don't do this or if you don't do that, I will expose these pictures, I'll expose these videos. That is a form of coercion, and that's a form of also bribery and putting the person under some pressure to have their way with them. It is also a form of violence of the person. Gender-based violence is a form of discrimination that seriously inhibits women's ability to enjoy rights and freedoms on a basis of equality rather with men. And I kind of emphasize that a bit as well already. The Inter-American Convention on the Prevention, Punishment, and Eradication of Violence defines violence against women as any act or conduct based on gender which causes death or physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering to women, whether in the public or the private sphere. So it can be hidden. The fact is, it's existing. Even if people do not know about it, it is a form of violence, and it's not correct, and it's something that needs to be dealt with. It's something that society, the law, the country, the state, whatever the place is, needs to give as much attention to, because in many cases it is a hidden matter. In many cases, people are afraid to come out to talk about it. So even if it's private, even if it's public, the fact remains that it is violence against a person. It could be a male, it could be a female, as I said, it could be a child, it could be a man, a woman. It doesn't matter, boy or girl. As long as it is violating the person, you know, as long as it's violating the person, then it is of deep concern and should be dealt with. And it is violence in itself. Um, However, the expression gender-based violence should be understood as including, as we said, some types, as I said, some types of harms experienced by men. So it's not just women. I know we have seen, and for the most part, we have seen that the prevalence of that is against women, but just do note that there are men who also suffer gender-based violence in their private space, or some who have tried to get help, have come out and tried to get help, and they too have been made fun of, as we know, and which is unfortunate because men hurt just like women can hurt. Men feel just like women feel. Men have emotions just as women have emotions, and men need to be cared for as well, just as women need to be cared for. And so there are men who have experienced and are experiencing gender-based violence. As a matter of fact, I remember just a few days ago, I posted something on my Facebook page, on Seize Paul Facebook page, and a gentleman from our area, he wrote that he knows of a man who was being abused by his wife, and he went to the police station and he made a report, and he was made fun of course, and the police didn't take him very seriously. And the guy made a very important point. He said it's not that the man could not have, even beaten up the woman, because he's much bigger than her in stature, and he could definitely inflict some kind of wound upon her, but he didn't want to get himself in trouble, and he was the one getting the abuse, and because he sought help, he was laughed at. So we have to correct those things in society, because yes, we want to advocate for our sisters. I definitely stand with my sisters, meaning the women who go through that, but we must not take it for granted that women are the only people who suffer from gender-based violence. Okay, so the pervasiveness of violence against women in the Caribbean, it has been highlighted in a recent report by the United Nations. And that recent is not so recent in my view, but it's one of the most recent ones that I've been able to put my hand on. It's a 2018 report. It highlights in recent time the impact of pervasiveness, you could say, of violence against women in the Caribbean. That's important. According to the report, violence against women affects a significant percentage of women and girls in the Caribbean. So we cannot bury our heads and say that not happening. We know it's happening. The UNDP Caribbean Human Development Report indicates that 30.4%, that's a significant number, 30.4% of women in the Caribbean, our Caribbean, that includes us in Dominica, report high rates of fear of sexual assault in comparison to a mere 11.1% of men who reported a level of fear of sexual assault. Now, it doesn't mean that all that 30.4% of people have experienced it. They're saying that there is an expression of fear that could possibly happen to them. And so this is not a laughing matter. Gender-based violence is a real issue that we must all take as our business and be concerned about, and try to advocate against, and try to seek the necessary solutions that can impact our society positively as it pertains to that matter. Moreover, the report indicated that violent crime has been increasing in the Caribbean, and this is accompanied by a decrease in both cases, case clear up and conviction rates. So while we have violent crimes increasing in our region, we have a decrease in the solving, you could say, or in the clearing up, then getting those cases dealt with and convictions happening. So that's a major discrepancy, if you ask me, whereby we have so many of those things happening, but the people who are suffering from them, the victims, are hardly getting the kind of redress, the kind of redress, I should say, that they deserve. They are hardly getting any form of satisfaction. Unfortunately, some of them won't even ever know, because their entire lives have been snatched from them. But the people who perpetrate these acts. They go scot-free, or they sit in the prison for X amount of, on remand for X amount of years, and nothing truly happens. And after a while, well, they had good behavior, they were kind, they behaved nicely in the prison, and they're out. They get out. And these people have long gone, they've lost their lives, their children have been left as orphans, and all of these things, and nothing happens. In the meantime, we have those crimes that are just, they're too much to bear. Okay, so we again cannot bury our heads in the sand, folks. We have to get on board and do something about this. Educate each other, educate ourselves and other people about the real evil, you could say, of such a situation. So it is estimated that 1 in 3 women will experience sexual or physical violence in their lifetime. In every 3 women, it is estimated that at least 1 such person will experience sexual or physical violence in their lifetime. This is serious. This is not a joke. If we think about how many women in just your little domain where you live, you know, if you live in Glenville, if you live in La Plaine, if you live in Granby, if you live in the United States somewhere, wherever you are and you're based, just imagine how many women exist within those areas. And it says it is estimated that 1 in every 3 will experience sexual or we should say physical violence in their lifetime. This is a very serious matter. Again, we cannot sleep on this. We have to be aware. We have to be able to observe the signs and do things about it. During displacement and in times of crisis, the threat of gender-based violence significantly increases for women and girls. Yes, and it's true. Look what happened. If you remember, after Erica, we have had where families have had to move from communities, Piditsava and Dubik, those areas, and they have been displaced. Some of them were lucky to be with family members, others may not have been so lucky, and who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I don't have the proof, but who knows? Maybe we can attest or know and say or maybe infer that there could have been some sort of abuse, threat of gender-based violence happening within those against women and girls, especially during that time. Not saying boys probably didn't experience it too, but there's a strong possibility that could have happened. Then even in COVID, for example, during COVID-19 lockdowns, 22% of women experienced sexual violence in Uganda. Uganda is in Africa. But the point is, if it happened there, who knows? Who knows? And if we listen to the local statistics, I'm sure, the local reports, I remember someone was reporting on the whole issue of incest, for example, that was happening, and child sexual abuse, for example, that happened during the times when children were home, parents were out to work, or parents probably could not give this sort of supervision that they needed to, because their children were still not at school and they had to probably go out to work. Some of them were essential workers, etc. It's very risky. So in times of crisis, you will have a major, you could say, spike. There's a possibility for a major spike in situations like these as well. So during times like this, we have to be even more vigilant. Gender-based violence can include things like, as I said, sexual abuse. It can be physical, mental, and sometimes we don't play the mental, but yes, verbal. Verbal goes a lot with mental goes a lot with verbal. They're sort of connected, you could say, because a lot of what people are told verbally goes to the mind, and because of that, it puts pressure, mental pressure on the individual. And economic harm inflicted in public and in private. It also includes threats of violence, as I said before, coercion and manipulation. This can take many forms, such as intimate partner violence. So the person is living with the person, or they have an intimate relationship with the person, and that person is violating them in different ways. Sexual violence, child marriage in some countries, in some places where the culture is sparse, you could say. Female genital mutilation in Africa, there are some places where that happens. And even something called honor crimes, where if a girl deviates from the culture of her of her people, of her homeland. She can be made to suffer a crime by even siblings because she dishonor their beliefs or that sort of thing. So it's very serious. It's that serious as well. Then you have the issue of gender-based violence taking the form, various forms. As I said, domestic violence, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, which is one we don't play sometimes in society. Oh, it's just a little talk, man. Oh, it's just a little joke I made with you. And that happens in workplaces. And let us not close our eyes and think it doesn't happen in Dominica, because I bet it does. All right. And also, all of which disproportionately, sorry, all of which disproportionately affects women. Not that it doesn't affect other people or male, it affects women as well. And we cannot say that it happens only, in the workplace or in the streets, or it happens different places, and in the places where we least expect to. Even in the church, sometimes those things can happen. Yes. So we have to bear those things in mind, that nobody is immune, and no parent should close their eyes on their children, and no husbands should take it for granted that my wife is safe. No, you have to talk to your wife, know what's going on, and the wife have to talk to their husband, know what's going on, and there should be that open relationship where you can be open with each other enough to know if each other are being affected by other people or even each other, and to seek help if there is a pattern, or if there is a culture developing that is unhealthy. So I want us to bear those things in mind, because it's good to know them so that we can look out for them when they are happening. Intimate partner violence, it's a term that's used. Some people say spousal abuse as well. Gender-based violence is sort of broad. It incorporates, the whole, it can be boys, girls. But when we zoom on intimate partner violence, we're talking about the fact that what we saw, a situation like what we saw over the last weekend, where two males took the lives of partners, people that they once maybe even told I love you, people that they once probably even well, yeah, if they have children together, they slept together, they shared a bed, they shared secrets, they shared moments, and it turned into that, the result being violence. Intimate partner violence, and it encapsulates what word is in trouble, encapsulates, those people involved in relationships that are of an intimate nature. So as I said earlier, the statistic is for you, and that's from I think the UN. I'm not really seeing it because, sorry, I'm not seeing it because of this stuff on my screen, but it's from UN Women. Yes, it says 1 in 3 women worldwide have experienced physical or sexual violence, mostly by an intimate partner. Mostly by an intimate partner. Believe it or not, it's happening. And some of us know, because we live in this society. Yes, and also marital rape. Yeah, that is a term. As a matter of fact, most recently in Dominica, the law was amended and was put in place where for men to know that yes, marital rape is a matter, and they can be taken to task for marital rape in our society. So it's thank you for sharing that, Ramona, because that is also vital. And you guys who are chiming in, I see Doc is saying important point: victims are not getting their redress, fair redress. The righting of the wrongs is not proportional. Excellent. We say we feel sad for the victims, but we must do more for balancing the scales towards justice. Agreed. If not too many will walk around, in fear, in large measure, girls and women, and that is not acceptable in civil society. I'm with you on that, Doc, 100%, and I thank you for sharing that perspective as well. So what is intimate partner violence? As I said, intimate partner violence is abuse or aggression that occurs in a romantic relationship. Intimate partner refers to both current and even former spouses and dating partners. So it doesn't have to be a formal relationship. They were dating, something happened, and the person did something to violate the right of the other person, some level of aggression, some level of abuse. It's not acceptable. Period. It's not acceptable. So in intimate partner violence can vary in how often it happens and how severe it is. It can range from one episode of violence that could have lasting impact to chronic severe episodes over multiple years. You imagine? There are people, listen, friends, in Dominica, in our nice little sweet Dominica, there are people who are living in situations that are really concerning, where they are under enough pressure, you could say. They are being abused on a regular basis, quietly, not speaking about it, too shameful to come out. It will make their family look bad. The men may have threatened them, or the women may have threatened the men who might be the ones who are victims, threatening, if you talk, I will do this, I will kill you, I will this, that, I will that, and so threats. And so they are living in fear, as Doc rightly said. Many people are living in fear, very quietly, but they are being abused. Okay, so this is not a joke matter. This is a very serious matter that we are facing, and we have to deal with it accordingly. That light no one's coming for me. So anyway, so to continue, according to gender-based violence, and in particular violence against women, is one of the most pronounced expressions of the unequal power relations between women and men. And even in our society, where we talk a lot about equality, we talk a lot about equity and so on, don't think that there is not the unequal power relations that is happening. A lot of it is institutionalized. It's very subtle. You have to pick it up. You have to be able to observe. You have to be able to listen to tones and expressions that will tell you about the unequal power relations that does exist. And so you have to wonder, if it exists in formal settings, what makes us think that it will not exist in the open, in the private spaces? Okay, I'm just throwing that out as, you could say, something to ponder upon, because in truth and in fact, guys, it is a reality. There is that whole pronounced expressions of unequal power relations that exist between women and men, very subtly, as I said, in some cases, very institutionalized. And we don't want to go there, but even in churches and other places, you have women being pushed aside, not being told directly, I don't want you in front there, I don't want you in front of my church, or I don't want you in front of my this, but as if we are less than, and you are being told, go on the side. You shouldn't be in front there. You don't belong there. That is not this, that is not that. So I'm just telling you guys, that in reality, there is that unequal behavior, you could say, or power relations that exists in various institutions. It is institutionalized, it is subtle, and we have to also observe them, because when they happen in these settings, we have to wonder whether some of these very people are not interested, or are not perpetrators, rather, of some of those behaviors that we're talking about here. Not judging anybody, but it's just interesting to think about, and to not bury our heads in the sand. And if you know me, I'm not here bashing anybody. I'm not interested in bashing people, but I'm just being as realistic as possible. I go to church, and so I'm not trying to say, well, church is the most safe space at all, because I do believe that even in churches there is a level of unequal power relations, and there is that whole issue of abuse that may happen even within the setting of our good institutions. So we have to be open. Parents, open your eyes, not because it's church, not because it's a church group, or a this or that, or a church person, that you should just close your eyes and say, oh, the children are safe. No, you still have to open your eyes, because nobody, you cannot take it for granted that your children, or your people will be safe. We have to educate everybody across the board to observe signs and to know how to behave accordingly. The main cause of the violence is the perpetrator, him or herself. People say the main cause of the violence is the perpetrator, him or herself. It is very important to keep in mind that a person who has been affected by gender-based violence is never responsible for the perpetrator's actions. And people like to say, oh, but she always walking that way, or why is she going that way alone? Oh, she like to wear short clothes. So no, absolute rubbish, if I should say it that way. A man has no reason, or a woman, no reason to, let's just say people have no reason to violate the right of another person because the person is dressed in a particular way. Zero. That's nonsense. The person who committed the act of violence or abuse or violation in any way is the one responsible. And we like to make the shame the victim, make the victim think, well, it's your fault. So long you're inside there taking the blows, he doesn't come out and say nothing, and we shame and we shame. Sometimes they were crying out for help and none of us listened. Sometimes they were reaching out and we say, oh, girl, yourself, I tell you your stories. Sometimes we say, oh, you like it, that's why you're staying there. Listen, I always tell people that I don't believe, hi Nadi, welcome. I don't believe, right, that a woman or a man enters a relationship with the intention, with the idea that they're going to be hurt by the other person. I don't believe that they enter a relationship with the desire to be hurt or to be abused. They entered most times because they loved. They were looking for something that they thought they found. They were looking for security, love, attention. Some of these women, they had 1 to 3 children before, and they find themselves with the man, and he was kind enough to take them in with their 3 children. So they ended up staying, and he said, well, if I taking care of your 3 children, will you have to make a child for me? Eh? And so she gets 4 children, and then 5 and whatever number. And it becomes a vicious cycle whereby she doesn't even have time to go get a job because now she's just babysitting. And so her whole life is dependent on this person. The food she eats is dependent on him. The deodorant she wears, the water she drinks, probably she cannot drink tap water. Who knows? I'm just saying, like, everything, the lights in the house for the children to study, that is dependent on him too. And so you have a very dangerous cycle. Okay? And these people feel a sense of hopelessness and, but if I leave, who's going to help me? But if I, and we have to help these people to build confidence in themselves, learn a skill or two that they can maybe use at some point to develop themselves, develop their esteem, their confidence in themselves, their sense of value, and so on. There are lots of things that need to happen so that these people can regain some composure. The point I'm making is that the blame game doesn't help. The judging of the person saying they like it doesn't help. We are being very insensitive when we speak that way. Oh, she liked it. All the time she was there taking it. She didn't know is that I was going to. No, she did not know. You think she knew on X date the man would slam her, cut her, shoot her, beat her, whatever, and she would lose her life? You really think she knew that? Maybe she thought, boy, maybe Mr. might take my life. But how are you going to come out there? Some of them are trapped. They don't know how to come out. And we have to help them. We have to be the source of support as a society for such people. We judge them, we condemn them very often and very quickly. We bash them, we shame them, we make them think, oh, you're less than the person because, oh, you can be in that. No, we have to help them. And guess what? The men too, they too need help. They too need help. Blaming the victim adds to the abuse cycle for the victim. Thank you, Doc. And that's from a psychologist who is saying that, a clinical psychologist. I hope he's clinical, Doc. Yes, a doctor, right? And that's the truth. We often say they like it, or that they're not moving. We shame them. But friends, we have to change the rhetoric that we throw at victims. Men or women, we have to change that and be more compassionate as a people towards them. So there is no single factor that can explain gender-based violence in our societies, okay? Rather, there are a myriad of factors, a whole set of them that contribute to gender-based violence. And the interplay of these factors lies at the root of the problem. That's the truth. They are so connected. First, she just had 1 child, then she ended up living with him, and she made another child, and so on. That is one. But why did she even end up there in the first place? Do we know her background? Do we know what she went through as a child? Do we know, whether she even had a parental support when she was growing up to know a true love of a man? And so she knew, she would have known how to navigate and differentiate between a pure love, a real love, and a toxic kind of relationship that seemed to be love, but it really wasn't. I'm saying these because these are things we often do not bother to even think about. Okay? So there are a myriad of factors that contribute to that evil, you could say, gender-based violence, or even intimate partner intimate partner violence in our society. And we cannot just say is that pinpoint one, but there are a number of things, and it's our business to understand what they are, know what they are. Each case is different, but at least have an idea, and then be able to do something about the situation, something meaningful, okay, something wholesome. Then we live in a society where people say, me, that not my business. Nah, me, who's that? You and the neighbor waylaying, balling. Huh? But we say, me, that not my business. That is their business. Me, I'm gonna put my muffin on. Even further, I was speaking to someone today, and the person said to me, she remember when she went to the police station, not in Dominica, to make a report about her child who had been abducted by the father. And the way the police behaved and told the person, oh, that is all your business, and we're not getting involved in that. That is all your business, man and woman business. And thankfully, there was another officer who went, and that was, as I said, that was not in Dominica, but it was in another Caribbean island, who said to the post, no, sir, we are going to deal with this matter. Let us go. We have to go and deal with this matter. And thank God that man had some compassion and sympathy, and he was able to intervene and help the woman to get her child back and to come out of an abusive situation that she was in. Okay? We have to be more compassionate about this. So it is widely acknowledged that police statistics do not present the true picture as regards the incidence of gender-based violence, since many people do not report it to the police. And this is a major challenge, very much so. So when we hear, oh, there are X amount of cases in Dominica, well, these are what was reported. We know that, right? We know that a lot of it is under the carpet. People in high places, big positions, getting blows, eating blows from their husbands and their wives, and they wouldn't talk. But they need help. And they too, if they're hearing me, if they're seeing that, if they ever come across this video, I would urge you, if you are being abused in any way, to seek help. And if you are a perpetrator of abuse, if you're looking at this, or, for some reason this has reached you, look for help. Because I don't think you want to be seen as a monster. I don't think you want to be an abuser. But if this is in you and it's your trait, and you need to find out why you're doing that and deal with the why, so that you can stop being that kind of person and be the loving and protecting man or woman that you ought to be for your wife, your children, your husband, whatever, whoever your partner and family might be. So these are some things I really want us to bear in mind as I'm going through this. These are just coming through, and I just want to just share them one time, because I don't think we should take it for granted. Many women tell nobody about the abuse, as I said, and they experience that in many instances. Okay, in many instances, other people who are aware of the abuse fail to make the report to the police. So some of us know, but we're hoping is the next person that will do it. Me, not me, not Pamwe. That's not my business. Me, let the person go and get why did you make somebody else tell them? Me, you go and tell me. You know it. So why are you even waiting to go and tell it 30, 40, 20 people in the community? Instead, you find a way to seek help. If you're telling to seek help and then to be a part of the solution, it's good. But if you're just telling for gossip, if you're just telling to make fun of the individual, the victim in that case, or even the perpetrator, then we're not helping the situation. We have to be our brother's keeper. The Bible say that we have to be our brother's keeper. We have to look out for our neighbor. We have to look out for other people and see how and if we can help. Okay. The effects, gender-based violence has a lot of effect, or have effect on our society. It affects society, it affects individuals, and there are a number of effects that it brings with it. The consequences are devastating, and they can have lifelong repercussions for survivors. So, for example, the young lady who is at the hospital, or even the children of the lost loved ones there most recently, these people, they go through trauma, mental illness, suicide happens, death, so many other things that happen from that. This gender-based violence is very serious. It is very serious. It has so many impacts on so many people. One person commit the crime and their whole family feel ashamed. That is already mental and emotional pressure and malady for the family. They didn't do the act, but their loved one did it. But think about the victim too, and the children left behind as well. So it is just a horrible, horrendous thing to do, to inflict violence on another person in any shape or form, and especially in an intimate relationship where hearts and families are connected. You know, despite the culture of silence, the negative effects of gender-based violence are felt by society every day, my friends. Every day. We hear them, some of them we shove them under the carpet, others we just say, well, that's their business. Or other times it hits us harder, like when we hear this news and back to back and how it affects us. Okay. Gender-based violence disrupts families. We have seen it, it's blatant. We've known of cases where women, their lives were cut off, or men. I don't know. Probably I don't know. I can't. Yeah, I can't tell you that I've heard of a male who lost his life through gender-based violence or intimate partner violence. If you do, you can tell me. You don't have to call a person's name, but you can say yes, you know of somebody. Um, but I don't. But I have known of several women, and in our little Dominica, several women who have lost even their lives. And they have those that they've not lost their lives, but they have taken some nasty, battering, you could say, physically and otherwise, through that evil. So it disrupts families. It affects women's economic viability. If you damage her, she cannot go to work. If you damage her, she cannot function as she needs to. Okay? It puts women's health and lives at risk. But it's emphasizing women because, as we said, majority of the times it's women, but the victim, we can just say the victim. It has negative effects on children, as children who experience domestic abuse or sexual abuse may have lifelong health and developmental issues. It will have those effects on them, such as depression, low self-esteem, and poor school performance. Sometimes we wonder why is it this young person is so depressed and so we say mal cassé, or they're behaving in a certain way that is unacceptable. Yes, we know those things happen, but do we stop to think about what they might have witnessed as children? Do we see, do we remember, or do we take time to probe from them to find out? A lot of our fellas on the block, I'm not saying that all of them saw that, but a lot of them, they were exposed to things of that nature and never picked up themselves. They love their mothers, or they love the person that they saw being abused by another person, and that has emotionally scarred them. And they become afraid to love and to be vulnerable because they don't want to get hurt. But they've also become either vile as well, and they will the first impact may act very irrational to us. So there is a root: depressions, low self-esteem, poor school performance. Oh, why is it they're not learning? Do you take the time to know their home, their background? You may not know everything, but do you take time to know that? There is a lot of things, my friends, and that's why earlier it said it's not one um reason or one thing that contributes to us hearing of gender-based violence, or gender-based violence happening. It's a myriad of things, a large proportion of things that we can't just put our fingers on and say that's it. There are health implications, and some of them I will just highlight quickly. Violence against women affects women's physical, mental, sexual, and reproductive health. As I said, the effects range from bruises and cuts to life-threatening physical and psychological conditions. Sometimes we see women, their face have a dark spot. They put powder on their face, and they really think we're not seeing it, And they say, "You okay? Are you all right?" "Yes, we am okay." What's wrong with your face? What's wrong with your... "Oh, I just knocked my head. I knocked my head. Oh, I just fell," or something. They don't tell you, the true picture, again, for various reasons. But and you pick up on it. A lot of things. They walk in a certain way, they're in pain, and they will not tell that is your situation. Sisters, if you are in that position, find at least one person to confide in. Let them know that you are at risk and try to get help. Please. Brothers, same thing. And if you are the one inflicting those pains, please get help for yourself. Get counseling. Get a therapist to talk about why you are behaving the way you're behaving, and to see if you genuinely love the person and yourself. Get help so that you can stop that infliction of wound and pain on another human being, your fellow human first, and then the person you claim to love. Of course, we know the fatal health consequences are things even like AIDS-related mortality, because if it's, people, sexual abuse can lead to that. We know that. Maternal mortality, the woman dies in childbirth or dies even before childbirth because while she's pregnant, she's getting blows like old clothes. That's just one. There are other ways that happens. It's homicide, as we've heard of for the past few days and before. Anyway, it's not the first time it's happening, but it's time we get out of this nonsense and start to talk about it. And suicide, look what we're hearing. After the act is done, certain people will claim or try to kill themselves for whatever various reasons, right? So these are, and even the victim might feel that he or she cannot live with that anymore and may want to take their life. So these are real problems affecting all of us, and all of us have a part to play. And I will get to some of your comments, hopefully, before I wrap up, because I can see that some of you are actually making those very vital and valid points as it pertains to that. So we have the issue of psychological and behavioral effects as well of gender-based violence. Psychological, think about it, the mind, the heart, the spirit of the person, okay, the behavioral, how they behave, how they react, how they relate in certain situations, and so on. All of these can be affected. And Dr. Wallace or any psychologist would better be able to tell us some of those things. But in a nutshell, you have the issue of where the person could become abused, become an addicted to drugs. They can become, they can abuse alcohol and drugs. They will suffer from depression, anxiety, and anxiety, edginess, you could say, eating and sleep disorders. And that happens not just in them, but even their children, the people that live around them. Feelings of shame and guilt. Yes, and we spoke about that again. Phobias and panic disorders. Physical inactivity. They feel lethargic, they're tired, they have no energy. So, man, listen, this is a whole world. Poor self-esteem. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Crazy thing. That's a crazy thing in itself. Psychosomatic disorders. Another crazy one that needs intervention, needs trauma treatment. I don't know all the proper terms, but yeah, they need some intervention for sure. Smoking, which is a part of drug and alcohol abuse. Suicidal behavior and self-harm. Some people cut, especially the young girls, cut their hands, cut themselves as if to numb the pain of the real pain of the abuse. And so they inflict, some kind of wound onto themselves. Unsafe sexual behavior. So we say, oh, that girl nasty. That girl, she's so promiscuous. We don't know why. We don't know. You think she just was born promiscuous? You think she just became that? She just became quote unquote nasty? Huh? No, friends. We know for a fact that a lot of the girls suffered some kind of abuse, and they either will become that or they will become something else. Okay? If they don't get help, that is. If they don't get help to bounce back, to create a certain equilibrium in their life that make them still functional and that they are able to make good decisions that would not allow them to become even further victims of the same thing that caused them in the first place to get to that point. Okay? That vicious cycle. Then you have sexual and reproductive effects as well. So you have gynecological disorders, you have infertility, pelvic inflammatory disease, even that, pregnancy complications and miscarriages, sexual dysfunction, sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV, AIDS, HPV, which is a very deadly one. That's the human papilloma virus. It's very deadly, even if you don't hear much about it. And a lot of young girls can fall, and young boys can fall prey to it. Unsafe abortion and unwanted pregnancy. These are some of the sexual and reproductive things, effects of gender-based violence. So it's a myriad of things. It's huge, friends, and we cannot take those things for granted. We need to have more of an advocacy role, or play more of an advocacy role in talking about these matters, and also in seeking solutions for all, not one set of people, not women alone, not girls alone, for all. Because we may train and prepare women, but the men are not trained and they're not educated on the matter, and they will become the monsters that we already see some of them are being. It's huge. It is huge. It's a major problem, and we cannot sleep on it. Of course, there are physical effects as well, things like abdominal or thoracic injuries. You have bruises and welts, chronic pain syndromes, disability. The person always in pain, but they can't tell you why they're in pain. They're just hurting, you know. Fibromyalgia. I'm not a doctor. Fractures, gastrointestinal disorders, irritable bowel syndrome, even that, lacerations and abrasions, ocular damage, even in the eyes, the vision. It's serious, friends. We are dealing with a very serious problem. The problem is we don't recognize these effects, because most times when we speak about gender-based violence, or when we hear about it, is when something so horrible happens in our society, that everybody is up in arms about it, and we react. As people say, our society reacts, but we need to do more on a regular basis to allay those social problems, because that goes hand in hand with other problems as well. So if we all play our parts, and I know that there are people who are playing their part, don't get me wrong here. I don't think that, I know sometimes we say, oh, only time it happened, nobody talking, but no, because that everybody know. I think there are always people making efforts to address these matters in different ways. Some of them are small. They're not they're not on social media, so you don't get to know about it. But there are lots of ways and education that is happening, that is, preparing people to observe those signs and to know how to get out of them, but also to even prevent those things from happening in the first place. Okay. But we have to be more cognizant. We have to be more vigilant. Is there anything we can do? The question remains, can we do anything to stop it before it starts? And I saw that question today on Emo's page. I think I saw another person, a number of people asking the question of what can we do? There are things that can be done. I don't have all the answers, and what I have here are just things that were suggested by various sources, and I will certainly highlight some of these sources at the end of this presentation. So those of you who will watch it to the end, you will definitely be able to go and check out those websites and be able to get some more information for yourself. Okay, but one of them is that, first of all, we want to establish that intimate partner violence or gender-based violence they are preventable. These are preventable. Now, I'm using or. It's not that they are interchangeable. As I said, gender-based violence is a bit more broad. Intimate partner violence falls under gender-based violence. Okay, but they are connected, sort of. So I'm kind of using them interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. A number of factors may increase or decrease the risk of perpetrating and experiencing intimate partner violence. And let me just see if I can highlight some of them. So to prevent intimate partner violence, we must understand and address the factors that put people at risk for or protect them from violence. I'll say that again. To prevent that from happening, we must understand. So we have to take time to study the problem and address the factors, those things we find while studying it, address them. And the factors that put people at risk for violence or protect them from violence. So it calls for some work and groundwork and studying of the matter. It calls for some, not just ad hoc things, but real directed action. Okay? Directed and focused action on the matter. Promoting healthy, respectful, and non-violent relationships and communities can help reduce the occurrence of intimate partner violence, and I say by extension, gender-based violence. If we promote healthy, respectful, and non-violent relationships, and of course, it will fall into community as well. Okay? Also, that can be prevented. That can prevent harmful and long-lasting effects of intimate partner violence on individuals, families, and communities. So education, promoting of those healthy behaviors, healthy mindsets, healthy practices can certainly contribute to breaking down, you could say, decreasing such occurrence in our society. Prevention and response activities include, as I said, things like education on the matter, which is what I'm trying to do tonight. And I'm sure that there are lots of other people who will make the effort and who are making the effort to educate us on gender-based violence, how to look out for them, how to look out for their signs. And that in itself is a whole subject, advocacy, advocacy is, as I said, asking for lobbying for the various legislation, the various laws that need to be passed in order to deal with gender-based violence, for example, advocating for good relationships and in society and so on. Creating safe homes. That's one of the things that I mentioned on my page, the need for safe homes. And now I know that there are pockets, people within our society who privately house victims of gender-based violence. Again, I said privately, because you can well imagine what could possibly happen if it's not private. Okay? So there are some people privately risking their lives to help people who are or who fall prey to gender-based violence. Now, that is not sufficient. I don't think it is. I think as a society, as a country, as a region, and of course the world, there is need for safe homes. And since we're zooming on Dominica, there is need for established safe homes with all the proper amenities, including security for victim and those who are assisting victims, because this is a crucial matter. We can see when people, if a person can kill a person and then kill themselves, then they may want to harm somebody who is helping the other person. So there is need for established safe homes. Now, I'm not saying when I say established safe homes, I'm not saying that we have to go and put a big banner to say this is a safe home. No, that's not how it's done. It's, as a matter of fact, most times people pass by the places and they don't even know that these are safe homes, but they must be established by the authorities, by the people who are able to do them, and ensure that they exist and that people can call a hotline or call the Bureau of Gender Affairs, for example. I know they help with that. People can call them and they will be able to put these people at these homes. Now, I know sometimes the gender-based the Gender Bureau, the Bureau of Gender Affairs, I know sometimes they have difficult cases and they have to try to get places to put people. All right, they are doing the best that they can, for sure. And some other areas, like other organizations, and I will highlight some of them later. Dominica Council of Women and Dominica Women's Council, whatever it's called. I will highlight it. All these people, they are doing things to try to help. But I think as a nation, we need safe homes that is able to accommodate men, is able to accommodate women, able to accommodate children. So you need all the necessary amenities and facilities that are going to handle or deal with those matters. It's very serious. That thing is serious. I'm telling you all. When I was at school, I went to Midwestern State University. It's now called MSU Texas in Wichita, in the United States, Texas. And one of the things in one of my classes, our professor took us to, I think we were doing family violence as the subject that particular semester. And my professor took our class to a safe home to see what it was like, to observe what it was like. But you won't understand that even our going there it had to be well coordinated. It could not have been where we could say, well, I'm going at this place. And if you have Facebook and people like to say where they are on Facebook, okay, checked in X place, you can't do that. So it was like top secret to go to that place. And we were thankful that they gave us the opportunity to come in as outsiders, to observe and to see what is going on. Yeah, there were men in a certain section. There were women. There were children. All these people were victims of some form of gender-based violence or intimate partner violence. Okay, I'm saying that with the hope that somebody will hear And as a society, we will hear and do what it takes to create those places where people who find themselves in distress can go for relief, for help, for security, okay, and hopefully rehabilitation as well. So there is a grand need. I don't have all the formal terminologies for it, but I do know that that is a necessity. So again, I will say creation of safe homes in our countries, in our region, in the world for people who find themselves falling prey to such ill. The value of life itself and the respect for life matters. We need to promote that among people. Respect for life. And interestingly, we're in January. January 22nd is I think it's World Respect Life Day. I think that's how it's called. And we must ensure that we advocate for life. Often when people talk about, being pro-life, it's always about, abortion and preventing abortion, ensuring that the children are not murdered in the womb and that sort of thing. But when we are made, when we are created, what about that? Do we respect life as we ought to? Because if we teach young people, teach adults, teach each other to respect and value life for what it's worth, we won't kill each other. We won't want to cut somebody's neck. We won't want to shoot another person. We won't want to violate the person's rights because we respect the person. We want to give them the respect we think we do. We want to give it back to another person. Okay, so these are some things that we need to begin to do. Develop quality specialized programs for women and girls, but also for men and boys. I will emphasize that all the time. There was a time I studied a program in Portsmouth, Save Our Boys. Okay? It was Preserve Our Boys. Preserve Our Boys. And of course, as a woman, well, who was I to come and talk about preserving our boys? That's a talk, that went on. No, that wasn't why I stopped. I stopped because there was the whole issue of. I think it wasn't too long after that we had to deal with Maria, and Maria changed the trajectory of our lives in so many ways. A lot of things had to be, you could say, reprioritized, so to speak. And so that has probably taken a back burner, but it's still deep in my heart. And very often I know there's a religious sister who always, Sister Rose, who always says to me, sees, you need to go back to this. You need to go back to this. She has told me that several times. So I know it's a need. I believe if we help our young men, then our young men will be good fathers, better husbands, better men in society, and we will have a better society at large. I believe we have to help our boys and our men. Many of them are hurting, and hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. That's what they know to do, to hurt, because that's what they know. That's what they are. You cannot give what you do not have, so you only give what you have. We have to help boys and girls. We have to help men and women. But before the boys become men, let's help them. Before the girls become women, let's help them. Okay? Also, updating of some of our laws to address gender-based violence for today's need. Okay? We have to revisit them. Some of the laws are quite old, and some of them need sprucing up, if I can use that terminology. They need to be revisited in order to address some of today's matters, the current issues of today, so that, especially even dealing with cases and people getting the proper redress in good time, so that they feel satisfied and their worth gets built back, because they recognize that society recognizes that they were violated and they deserve to be respected. And then of course, when we make those laws, we have to ensure that they are enforced, because we make laws and sometimes we forget them. Basic things like wear your seatbelt. Wear your seatbelt. 2 days the police pack up, pull up, and everybody wearing the seatbelt. But after that, everybody forget that. No. When we make laws, we have to enforce them. And so we have to put systems in place. I say we as a nation, whoever the powers that be, need to ensure that the laws are enforced so that people can be satisfied when things happen. I personally, and that one is really dear to me. I believe that there should be a special unit or division that is set up within the law, the legal system, and also within the law enforcement system to handle gender-based violence. It has been acknowledged or recognized that not all police officers can handle those matters. No, and it's true. Sometimes we say, "But look at how the police," but the police don't know better. The police doesn't know better, folks. How to I'm not saying, listen, I'm not attacking any police, by the way. I'm just saying, I'm speaking here in general, that there are some police officers who would be able to make a good judgment and deal with a gender-based matter. But I'm saying that there are cases where, in many cases, where the average officer may not be able to handle a gender-based violence issue. And so there should probably be, just like what we advocate for a special unit to deal with children who suffered especially sexual abuse, then there should be maybe that whole department can have a sub for that and deal with also gender-based violence, which it falls under, I'm sure. Okay, a special unit, a division to handle that, that should include law enforcement officers as well, health personnel, and all of that, psychologists and such people, so that there is a holistic approach to addressing this matter, and there is a proper, you could say, system to follow, in order, or when something like that happens. It's not a haphazard way that things are done, but there is a systematic approach to addressing gender-based violence within the system. Support groups and systems, I believe we need to see those things. I don't know if they are well, there might be to a certain extent, but I mean, if they are existing, they probably need to be publicized a little more, so that people who are going through such trauma and pain and misery can seek help from support groups and support systems. Again, I believe gender-based violence must be dealt with on a multi-sectoral approach, or through a multi-sectoral approach. It cannot be just one set of people over there dealing with it, but there should be everybody, all the different sectors should come on board to deal with this. Because guess what? Every sector has somebody who is going through that gender-based violence, either quietly or openly. And it's men and women. We work everywhere. Boys and girls. They go to school, they play on the play, they go on the playing field. They are everywhere. And so there should be a multi-sectoral approach to deal with gender-based violence in any society. And of course, that does not divorce or that does not subtract or minus or exclude Dominica and in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so in a nutshell, we have to teach safe and healthy relationship skills, engage influential adults and peers, disrupt the developmental pathways toward partner violence very early. Okay, so as it says, starting early childhood home visitation, preschool enrichment with family engagement, parenting skills and family relationship programs, treatment for at-risk youth and children and families. And yes, parental skills is so crucial now more than ever, and that's something we were talking about at the youth division. And we have not just talking about it, we are actually liaising and partnering with a number of agencies and are developing a parental program right now at the youth division that we hope will be able to meet some of those needs that we were talking about there. Create protective environments, okay? Improve our school climate and safety, improve organizational policies and workplace climate, modify the physical and social environment of neighborhoods. Even these help put more lights. It's sad. They put more lights on our street, and there are elements in our society that just destroy them. All that is part of it. People feel safe when the place is lighted, and people who have bad intentions don't like it, so they make it dark. I hope you see what I'm talking about. So even the environment that we create, the physical space that we create, contribute to a behavior like that, or it may allay or decrease the likelihood of such behaviors. So we mustn't take those things for granted. Strengthen economic support for families. That's a big deal. Strengthen household financial security. Strengthen work family supports. And that is for, across the board, people, employers, and be them in the public sector, the private sector. How can we ensure that families are more independent financially so that people feel more secure on both fronts, men, women, and there is not that dependency syndrome and dependency that is happening among and within our homes, so that people do not feel independent enough and they are left to depend on the other person for basic necessities and personal effects, personal things. Support survivors to increase safety and lessen harms. Yes, we really need to support survivors. Victim centered services, housing programs. Yes, we have some of those happening. First responders and um, legal protection. Yes, civil legal protection, patient centered interventions and treatment. So, friends, there are practical things that can be done, but they will require organization, participation on the part of all of us who are members of society, to put our heads together and then to turn ideas into action, and also to be able to reach the very people who need to be reached, and not just the same people who respond to everything, but especially those who never come but they need it the most. How do we reach them? These are the strategies, the strategic things we need to start to talk about. Okay, so having said that, I really wanted to just say, express my condolences at this point, to those who were left, or who are left to mourn the loss and to hurt over the loss of their loved ones through gender-based violence, especially. Some people, their family members, friends, colleagues, loved ones, all those of you who were left, or who have been bereaved, in the passing of the victims of intimate partner violence or spousal abuse and or gender-based violence. To the children who are left as orphans, they will need homes, they will need love, they will need support, they will need community. Not community that tell them, uko papa, yeah, you just like your father. He was a murderer. He was a this. He was a thief. He was a this. You don't see, you can never amount to any. No, not that. Because very often we as a society like to remind people, children, what their parents were. You will be like so and so. You just like your mother. You just like your this. You will be like that. You will turn out. You will turn out to be nothing, or you will turn out to be a thief, or just like your father, or just like your mother. No, not that kind of support. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being a source of support for these children, that they feel safe, they feel loved, they feel a sense of hope, that their anger can be dealt with, that they can get counseling, good counseling, support, that to deal with their trauma, because they will need a lot of support, emotional support. Those children, and even those who witness the acts, the young girl, the young lady, 18 or 17-year-old in the hospital, who witnessed, that kind of thing. It's not easy. They will need support, friends. And we as society, if we know them, we have to help them. If we don't know them, we still have to speak for them. Know if that's what we can do. But we are called to lend support to them. And there are lots of names. And sometimes we probably need to start publishing the names of the people who passed on through gender-based violence, because they should not be forgotten. They should not be forgotten. We should have them as not to create hurt and hurt, but to remind us that that exists in our society, and we need to find a way to eradicate it for them, as a way to give some kind of, you could say, honor to the fact that they were victims to something like that, and they would not like it to happen to another person. And so we do not want their death to go in vain in that way. I hope you understand what I mean by that. So I want to express my sympathy personally to those who are mourning and who have been directly impacted by this. But all of us as a society, all of us have been impacted negatively, emotionally, otherwise, by that sad news, by these negative occurrences. And every time we hear of another person within our area who go through it, we hurt for them, and we hurt with, or we shouldn't rejoice over it. We should really hurt with them. Even if it's your worst enemy, you don't want it for them. You don't want that for them. Okay? So I want to extend my sympathies. And then I want to take time out to extend kudos. Kudos to some people who have been championing the cause in Dominica. Very quietly, a lot of them, very quietly. Some of them out of duty, and some of them out of passion. And I can't help but to mention people like Mrs. Delia Coffee Weeks, Tina Alexander, Dale Roy Nesta Williams of Levy Dominic, the Bureau of Gender Affairs, the Dominican National Council of Women. I've council twice, but sorry, the last council shouldn't be there. So it's the Dominican National Council of Women, Mrs. Angelica Pierre-Louis, and many others who are part of that organization. The Youth Development Division with which I work, yes, and you wonder how? Yeah, through our social and related skills that we offer to every single one of our trainees who come through the doors of the Youth Division, who are able to sit in those classes as much as possible. We emphasize that they all should. Okay, and some of the topics that they are introduced to help to build, first of all, their person, help them to understand who they are, and then, of course, to see their social responsibilities as well. And that's just one program. There are lots of other programs within the division that helps to create that awareness in our young people. So I can't leave out my own department, I can tell you that. Of course, we have the police. Yes, some of them, we know they can do better, but there are those who are doing, and we have to highlight that too. Ministry of Health, Fire and Ambulance Services, Prison Services, teachers. Thank you so much for saying that. Pastors, priests, private and public sector leaders. So true. Lots of people. Dr. Margaret Wallace. All these people quietly help some people and are also publicly advocating for help for people like this, and to advocate against gender-based violence. The many quiet gatekeepers, I call them, yes, within our society. All hands definitely should be on deck, Doc. Yes. So I want to thank these people, because all these people make an impact on our society and are championing the cause to ensure that we do not have a repeat of such hideous act in our community, in our country. Friends, we don't live in a perfect setting. There are lots of people just walking around with a lot of internal pain and anger. And some will channel it in a healthy way, and others will need to be taught how to do so. That puts all of us at risk. None of us is immune. Absolutely none. We may not be in an intimate relationship with anybody to be a victim like that from intimate partner violence. But there are lots of ways that people are violated every day. We need a better society. And it should be that all hands should be on deck, honestly. All of us have a responsibility. Men, women, children, boys and girls. And I will say, again, if you are somebody, you know yourself as a man, you have violated the rights of women and or children or other men, and or you have also, or you are doing so, get help, please. Get help. Talk to somebody. Be open and get help so that you do not repeat those errors. And if you are a victim, get help. Talk to somebody so that you too can save your life and that of others. Get the necessary. Okay, you might say, who do I call? Where to call? I don't have all the answers personally, but maybe you can call the Bureau of Gender Affairs as a start. I think there might be a hotline somewhere. I don't know. Again, I will try to, if I get those information, I will share it out with you. I've called some names here. Maybe you can reach out to some of these people. They might be able to help you. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that there are people, leaders, a good leader in your community might be able to assist you with dealing with some of those situations as well. And those of us, if people confide in us, may say, respect those people's information. Don't go and share it with other people. Let us respect it. If we share it, it's because we're trying to get help, because we don't know what to do and we have to get help. But it shouldn't be to make fame, or it shouldn't be to make rumor mongering. It shouldn't be to make gossip about the person or to laugh at them. It should be to seek help with and for them. Okay, so I really want to just mention these people, and again thank all of you who are making a difference in our society. As I said, there are references to this, and so I am putting it here. Some of these websites, you can get some information, more information on gender-based violence and also intimate partner violence as well, that you can use to educate yourself, your peers, your friends, and hopefully we as society can come together and do something about such a, a heartbreaking situation. It affects you, it affects me, it affects all of us, and it's calling for us to build awareness and solidarity. Okay, so um, I want to thank all of you guys for joining me. I see that a number of you have made some comments, and let me just quickly see if I can um, just go through some of your comments according to how I can see them. I may not be able to do all of it, but I did mention a few. Thanks, Doc. I want to thank Dr. Wallace. She has made some very timely and important points here, as well as a number of you. Thanks, Nurse Paralysis topic, very appropriate. Yes, definitely appreciate that. Veronica Pascal, you say very important issue for discussion. Yes, and it's not just for us to talk, as I said, but really for us to see how we can develop some form of action as well. Each of us in our small ways, we can make a difference. Okay. Knowledge is power. Yes. Thanks, Ramona. Yes. How are you? Happy New Year. And thanks for this. Yes. Sees you're most welcome. It was on my heart, and I tend to listen to my heart when it speaks, and really had to do this. And it's not going to be the last, because I think that there are other elements to this subject that we need to deal with as well. Thanks, and same to you, Alicia. Okay, Doc, I think I highlighted that particular point earlier. Ramona says child abuse definitely increased during lockdown. Yes, it did in Dominica and throughout the world. Yes, a very timely topic. Karen Basil says, thank you, Karen. Um, Ramona says, also during major sporting events. Wow. Um, there are violent incidents, what's a DV, that's domestic violence incidents are on the rise. Wow. Especially during football. Now, that's an interesting element. It's because football tends to be like a religion in some of these countries, in the UK, in Europe, especially. Yeah, so it would be interesting, Doc. Sorry, Mrs. Dinard, Ramona. It would be interesting to hear your perspective a little more on that. How that occurs, how that happens. Yeah, I would find it. I think people would find it very informative for one, and also we would be able to look out for something like that and try to avoid it. And she says rape, marital rape also happens. Yes, and we did speak about that. So it's not because people are married that they don't, spouses don't rape their partners. That happens, and it's very harmful to the relationship and very violating to the partner. Um, Dr. Wallace says, I pray you can offer the presentation across the country in the churches, schools, community organizations, etc. Please, we need to raise awareness and educate as many people as possible. Take their questions, clear up misunderstandings, and equip with strategies. I'm so very happy to see you take this on. We have to take this on as an individual citizen. Thank you very much, Doc. Wow, that's an interesting suggestion. And if there is a request, I certainly will. And of course, maybe I can start with my own church and talk with some of our groups, our young people. Maybe do a presentation like that, even on my work level as well. If somebody would like me to come and share this as much as possible, I may try to do that, and maybe get other experts as well to come on to share on the subject. But yes, as you say, it is really meant for us to take this as an individual citizen matter, and we have to take it on together. So yes, thank you for that. And Ramona agrees with your suggestion. Karen says, I'm happy that you mentioned that this happens in the churches as well. It looks like a creeping phenomenon. Wow. We hear it on the news very often. We've heard of cases where in churches people have been abused in different ways. So no place and or individual is immune. I think it's vital that we don't pretend, to be ignorant or pretend to be naive and think, there is a safe space. No, I think in workplaces it happened, on the streets it happened, on the bus it happened, in the bus stops it happened. Just name it, in the workplace, and so it happens at schools, in churches, everywhere. And so we need to be aware and to also make others aware. So thanks for mentioning that. Nadisha, it's great having you. Thank you for that. And you are agreeing that we should not blame the victims. And Dr. Wallace made a point on that. He said, important point, the individual who commits the criminal act is the individual responsible. And I quite agree. They like to say, oh, she made me do that, or he made me do that. And they like to tell, a lot of times, by the way, the the perpetrators tend to tell the victim, is you that caused that, you that make me do that. No, the victim did not take your hand or your mouth to have you do anything or say anything. It is you who did or say, and so you are responsible for your act, certainly. And each of us need to take responsibility for our actions. In that way, we would avoid getting ourselves into doing such harmful things, where such harmful things to other people. So yes, she says, yep, we don't listen well enough to each other. A young man, sorry, it says indigenous bushman. I'm guessing it's a male. And thank you for sharing that. And it's really calling for us to listen more to each other, to our loved ones, to those who are hurting, to those who don't say much. Because sometimes it's not the uttered words, but to listen with our hearts to by what is not being said. Because many times people are hurting quietly, but their disposition, what they give out, will tell us that there is something deeper, and how can I be of help to this person. Nadisha says, on the outside looking in, many times we are too quick to judge. That is true. We never truly know what is going on behind those four walls. Agreed. Okay, and we need to be more compassionate as a people. I say we because me too, all of us. Sometimes we just get impatient and say, oh, no, but we should not. We have to recognize that, as she says, we do not know what happens behind the walls. Okay, we need to get this message throughout our society. I agree, and I'm trying here, and I pray that we can all try. Blaming the victim adds to the abuse cycle for the victim. That's not a joke, eh? Because then when we blame the victim, we are empowering the perpetrator. I think that's what it is. They say, oh, you don't see what they're telling you. You don't see what is you that causing? Yes, it's you. And so they feel empowered. But if we stand up with and for the victim, then the perpetrator must seek help, or he or she must stop what they're doing. Because now we empower people when we keep their hideous acts secret. I'll say that again. We empower people when we keep their hideous acts against us secret. Speak up. Let us speak up. I remember the same Delroy that I mentioned, he had something called Speak Up. I remember that at the time. It's maybe all part of the Levi Dominic activity, So we are called to speak up. We are called to make our voices be heard. Nurse Parilo, thank you for agreeing with this. Bushman says we should know by now that our society is jacked up when the plight becomes a complaint. Agreed. Very much so. And it means we're seeing things in the wrong light, and we need to fix it up. Lithia, thank you for being here. She says, when some women can say, if he don't beat me, he don't love me, this right there is a mental problem. I agree. And sadly, there are people who really believe that, that if he doesn't give them a beating, he doesn't love them. It's weird. Like, where did they get that from? And so we have to help to turn that around and let women see their value. That no, if he loves you, he respects you. If he loves you, he honors you. If he loves you, he protects you. He doesn't harm and hurt you. So we have to educate each other and educate others on that matter. Trauma often repeats itself in families unless we are intentional about change. Very true. And so you're calling for us, Nadisha, to be not just, don't do things just haphazardly or on the surface, but that we should do things intentionally in order to get change, positive change out of it, right? So thank you for urging us to consider that. Lithia says, sorry, some of the officers themselves abuse their partners. Here we go. So it's a really messed up vibe, okay? A lot of people are being abused and smile on the street like all is fine, like bomb waiting to explode. My goodness me. And that is a fact, a fact, a fact. We see them, we meet some of them. How are you? I'm fine, but they're not. They're hurting, and they are just like time bombs, ticking time bombs. They need help. If we know, we should probably try to gently approach them and offer help, or at least a listening ear. If we don't know, we don't know. Okay, but if we know, we should be compassionate as best. Okay. Calvert, our friends, a friend there from St. Vincent. How are you? How is Jose? Nice to have you. And I'm hoping that you're doing much better. As Calvert says, as a community, we need to be less critical and more compassionate. I am sure that there are many more men in society suffering from this, but who are ashamed to come forward and seek help. I agree, agree, agree. And we men need to help men. So men need to speak up too. So thank you, Calvert, for weighing in on that and encouraging our brothers to come out and speak and to seek help themselves as well. Verbal abuse is as bad as physical abuse. Agreed, and maybe even worse because it leaves some emotional scars that go a long way. Okay. Doc says people like the video and thank you, Doc, for encouraging others to like the video and to share the live because the information could save lives. I agree. And that's my hope that we can save at least one life today. Yeah, one life today or any day that someone would look at this video, that you will feel a sense of hope and to know that you are not alone in the situation. And there are people out there who are advocating for you and would like for our society in which you belong to be a better one that we can all live in. For your children, I don't have children of my own, but for our children, all the children are my children as far as I'm concerned because they exist in my society. So I have to look out for all of them, just like you. Okay? Excuse me. So Johnny says there are a lot of people who are hurting and it is a sad situation. And I do agree. Julie Daniel, she tells us, but I tried to assist someone who was being physically abused. The guy put her naked as she was born. Neighbor had to wrap her with a bath towel. When the ambulance took her to the hospital, she refused to talk to the nurses. Today, what is wrong? Okay. To date, what is wrong? So I decide not to get involved. Okay. I see. You can feel that sense of hopelessness and despondency. Like, what can I do to help this person? I've tried. And the person that, it's not that they don't want the help. Do they know how to receive the help? Probably not. Could they have been afraid because they're afraid that if they talk, he might kill them this time? He might kill their children. He might threaten to kill the children. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know. Don't give up on the person. That's what I would say. Maybe you may not get them to change as you want them to, but if you can be of any support at any point, please do. If it means you have to call a third party, a police or something to come and help the person, sukuwe them, as we say in our local term, parlance. Sukuwe them from their situation, do that. But don't give up on them as much as it's heartbreaking that you would go that far. And it reminds me of a similar situation where we have children who are abused and their parents would keep them from speaking and take money from the perpetrators rather than to have the children get redress. Those things, they hurt. They hurt bad. They hurt our welfare officers. They hurt our gender bureau, and so on. It hurt the people who care, the social workers, even the police who may have done a good job in that situation. It hurts them. But we cannot stop doing what we have to as a society to help. If we all do that, if we just give up, that's what the perpetrators will want. That's what the people who do these acts will want. So don't give up. Don't give up, sister. Still, if you can help in whatever small way, go ahead and do it. If it's a towel, will you have to wrap her up again with a bath towel or a sheet? Do it. And maybe one day she will come to her senses and say, boy, I cannot take this anymore. Let me get out of that. We don't know. Again, as I said it earlier, like we often wonder why they stay. Why are they staying? And maybe that's a topic we'll explore sometime. Doc might have a better view on that. Okay. I remember we had that discussion in one of my sociology classes, and I'll probably go dig up my notes to see what I can find in that regard. But I think the borderline of that for me is that when they enter those relationships, they enter for love. And they love the people. They don't love the hurt. They don't love the pain that has been inflicted on them. They love the person they are with. And we say, but how they can love a person that's hating them? Because they loved them before they hurt them. I'm not making excuses for them, but I just believe like that is the concept that's probably in their heart and mind. So we have to be patient with them and help them to develop their self-worth, and maybe they will see to get out. Okay. We all have a part to play. I'm sure many of us right now know a couple that may be going through issues with domestic violence. We have to try to communicate with our brothers and sisters. Yes, some of them, they make it hard to communicate with, by the way. I agree. Some of them, the men can be like bulldogs because they know what they're doing and they don't want you to approach them, nor their children. So they will even brainwash their children, tell their children, don't talk to that person. Don't tell nobody nothing about my family. Don't tell nobody about your family. And the children are dying emotionally, you know. But be that ear that is just waiting in case they want to talk one day. Don't give up on them. We cannot give up on them. Men as well as women. We can't give up on them. Okay? Doc, if I'm wrong, tell me, but that is my view on it. Miss Paul, this information is so important that it needs to enter every home. I'm seeing the numbers on, and this is not enough. I suggest more of those talks in the churches, schools, public gatherings. This information needs to reach every man, woman, boy, and girl. We should not stop. Families are hurting, children are torn apart. So sad. Yes. I'm hoping that the video is going to be there on my Facebook pages, and also on my YouTube channel, Influences. And so I hope that, if you know the link, you can share it with other people. Just copy the link and share it. Say, you guys need to listen to that, and share it with your friends and so on. And hopefully, the message can go across. And as Doc said, maybe we need to take this, I need to take this presentation to other parts of the island and just share with people on it. If that opportunity occurs, then I certainly will. Yes, thanks, Lithia, for that. Nad says, I understand how it can be discouraging, but we cannot help them unless they are ready to be helped. But we cannot stop trying. I agree. Something needs to be done. These 7 children need help. What is in place for them and the entire community? I don't know the answer to that, but I can bet my money the community where that has happened, the people are definitely looking out for the children at this point. I want to believe by now, the welfare services would have been activated to address the needs of, if they are minors and so on, to address the needs of those children, the immediate needs. But I'm sure that there are some needs that are more long term, and they will have to be looked at and put in place. I don't have the answers, but I'm sure. I mean, I want to believe that today these children had something to eat. They are probably getting some level of emotional support, counseling for one, a safe place to put their head down and sleep, and so on, because maybe they cannot even stay in that place where that happened, if it happened where they live, So all of those things. Let us pray and hope that something has happened for them. Okay. Do you understand why she reacted that way? It wasn't because she didn't want help. I don't think she understands exactly why, and I think a lot of us sometimes struggle with why the person is reacting that way. It's not because we don't want to understand, I think, but emotionally you feel like, what more could I have done? Why this person is not responding? How we expect them to. So Ramona, I really think there is need for more education in that regard. Why women stay in abusive relationships? Why? Maybe it's something that Doc, one of you can maybe explore that, because it needs exploring. All right. And it is a humongous problem. Yes, it is huge. Oh yeah, I see Doc offering some advice that I didn't see yet. So I'm happy I'm going through this. She says, Julie, it's very tough. Okay, you call that teach. Many victims become addicted to that abuse process. Here we go. But you did rather the right thing. We, the onlookers, have to just do the right thing in the moment, whatever it is. It takes time and support to leave. Agreed. Many victims are threatened with death or that kids will be hurt. Here we go. I never read that. And they leave and they believe it. So as onlookers, we just let them know we are there and willing to help them. Agreed. And when they're in crisis, we do what you did and give them rescue. Thank you, Doc. Right on the money. Right on the money. Excellent. Thanks. Thank you. And I'm happy you got your response, Miss Julie. And Danielle, yes. And then, of course, we must vet the people who work in the... Oh, bon Dieu. I take a deep breath on that one day. Yes. We must vet the people who work in these safe homes, and not just even these safe homes, but even some of our social programs. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say at this point. Okay? We must vet the people prior to coming into those places. And, of course, security must always be a key factor within and without those facilities. So thank you, sister, for that. You hear the criticism that you're a woman wanting to educate boys. Yes, I get that. I was told, who you think you are, who, or how can you? Boys don't need, like me, women to help them. That's something. It's more like men that can help men, and that was the kind of vibe, it was unfortunate. It was coming from somebody who I thought would have been a bit more, um I want to get the right word, more aware. I'm going to use a nice easy word, aware. you know it was sad, but that was not a deterring factor for me. It was discouraging, but I wouldn't say it was a deterring factor for me. And as I said, I believe that our boys need a lot of attention, support, love, guidance. And even if I am, let's say, channeling up or that kind of a program, I don't have to be the one in front. I don't have to be the face. There are lots of men out there who can be reached out to and say, "Hey, I need your help. Can you come and talk to the boys? Can you come and help our young men and so on?" But somebody needs to do it because it is a need in the society, and our boys are languishing. Can't we see it? We are losing our men in droves. It's either they're killing each other with guns and knives, or they are on bikes playing crazy, not being responsible as some of them need to be, and hurting themselves and dying, or they are for other reasons hurting each other. Sadly, it's a very crucial problem, and we cannot close our eyes to it. And so somebody in society needs to help the boys. If it's me, if I can do a little bit to save one, two boys in my community, oh yes, I will. Because in reality, if I help two boys, I may have helped two big generations. Okay? So yes, Doc, yeah, we have to do work. It is a lot of work. What if the men of the community are not rising to the task? Who educates them? That's right. It's all connected. The end result is women and girls are left to fend for themselves, very much so. And who are they going to love? Who are they going to marry? The girls. Who are they going to marry? So we all must rise up and take our roles in society very seriously. And I share that view 100%. People, please share the live because so many people are in domestic violence situations. Thank you, Lifia, for that. I really hope that people can share and pick up on what I shared a while ago. You can see the presentation before now. It's there for you for all time to go back and look at. Okay, turn ideas into action. That's the key. That's the key. We must get to do practical things in our communities in order to save lives, to save each other, and to save our society on a whole. On the ground strategies, community-based, yes. Church initiatives, school campaigns, yes. Radiations. What is that, Doc? Radiations. Doc, you're gonna have to tell me about that radiation, eh? One radiation I know is when you go and get a scan. So, Doc, you're gonna have to educate me on that one, okay? Radiation, or I may have to look it up, all right? Social media promotion, definitely, and education. Billboard campaigns, wow, that one definitely. I know there is a wonderful billboard that is erected up in T-Bay area, going towards Point Round, and that is where our famous Jingle Jam has something to do with. I think it's yeah, it's abuse, yeah. So we need more of these to remind us all that it's all of us business, and we need to ensure that those things don't happen in our society. Most welcome, and it's my pleasure, just my duty, I think. And Lifty, I'm so happy that you mentioned these people because I didn't put them on my list, but I did mention, the quiet gatekeepers, because a lot of our teachers are hurting. When they meet children who are victims of such things like violence and abuse, and or who live in homes where that exists. I have known teachers personally, who have shared some of their stories and how much they hurt. And in sharing, they tear up, they cry, and they are in deep pain to see the pain that some of their students, go through. So we cannot close our eyes to this. And so she says, school teachers, pastors, priests, private and public sector leaders, we need all hands on deck to combat this issue. Enough of the party politics. I agree. And let us all do our part to help curb this serious issue. It's sad. I mean, our society is so polarized politically that every situation is tied to. I'm not saying that they are not political impacts or political effects of even gender-based violence, because it does have political ramifications, if I can use that term. Even they are the ones, the policymakers, they are the ones who make the policies, and so they're politicians, most of them in there. Not all, but most of them shape policies or contribute to the shaping of and pass the laws in the house and so on. So it is, but political, but I think on the ground we take it too deep into the politics rather than looking at the real issue and trying to get solutions for it. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. Uh, Great informative program. Please accept your flaws. Thank you very much, because from day one you're doing a fantastic job with the youth and others in our society. Thank you, Lithia. I appreciate. I remember you back in the day in my youth choir and in church and society. So yeah, thank you so much for remembering that. I thank God that youth work chose me. People, love for people has pretty much shaped me over the years. Even if I don't get to like be on the ground as much as I would have liked to, based on what I do now. Although I'm on the ground, but not as much. I work with people who are not on the ground, so to speak, but at a different angle, different level. But my heart beats for society, because I think if you have a crazy society, then you are not going to live a peaceful life. We need to have a peaceful society in every facet of our society. It needs to be more balanced and wholesome. And that's with our people, our human resource. That's the greatest asset we can ever have. We can have all these big buildings, lovely facilities and amenities, as we call them. But if we have people who are non-functional, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. So we need to do this. All right. So I will try my best just to do the little that I can do. Thank you, Antoinette. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ramona. I will definitely do that. I know that you and Doc and some other folks here will come on board and help in any way possible. Organize volunteers, okay, and train them to become trainers. Wow, you already have a PowerPoint. Thank you, Doc. Decentralize, delegate, spread the task out so it's not too big for you. Great. I'm gonna have to dialogue with you a little bit more, Doc, on that and see how we can partner with other people. Today, I thought a lot about Delroy as a young man. You don't really hear a lot of male voices in this. We need more. And I think I may reach out to somebody like Delroy and see if he would be willing to just talk a little more on that. And then, of course, to see how we can develop that kind of strategy that you're suggesting to organize volunteers and to train them to become trainers and to be support systems for others. And even, schools where we have peer educators who can be a support to their own peers as well. That can help. So grassroots and community level work, there should be a massive response to these terrible acts. I agree. Agree. We as people need to be more compassionate. Amen, amen. Why they say our culture thinks that it's only women who give men charm, but men give women charm also. Is that one of the reasons they say? Charm, what is charm, sister? Help me out there. I'm lost. There's a language I'm not sure I know. He says, why they say? Why they stay? Oh, why they stay? Our culture thinks that it's only women who give men charm, but men give women charm also. Is that one? Are you talking about charme, like in Creole? I don't know. Vemo. I don't know. Somebody help me there if you have the explanation of Alicia's stuff. Alicia, you're gonna have to tell me more about that when I see you in a while. Sis Paul, you're 100% on point. They need our support until they're empowered enough to live. Thank you, Doc. Its circumstances is individual, and the plan for helping victims is based on their situation. But always support and encouragement. That's it. I'm reminding we are there when they are ready. That's the thing. We cannot solve their problem, but we can be of support to them and hopefully be able to help them to navigate and get out, even to save their lives and that of the other people that depend on them. So yeah. I'm gonna be wrapping up in a quick time in just a few minutes. Yeah, so it says, I remember telling one person she can go back all she want, but all time I hear the fighting, I call in the police. Okay, I like that. Yes, and you let them know, you let them know straight up. And the guy, he knows too. Yeah. And then of course, Kukoti and red beans. So that's what you were talking about. I was right. So you were saying that women shame men and men shame women. Is that it? Let me go back and see which one you were saying now. Okay, so you say women give men charm, but men give women charm also. We won't see. Okay, that is a crucial thing. Whatever that is, and if people practicing that, then that's I don't know what are the implications of that. What happens when the charm goes bad, or the person wants to pay it out? I don't know. Massa. But if it results to gender-based violence, then it's also horrible, and wrong. So, sisters and brothers, let me thank those of you who were with me and had the patience to hang on. Thank you very much for staying, and please share this information with those that you encounter. As I said, the video is going to be on my Facebook page, Influence Sees, also on my personal Facebook page, Sees Paul, and then, of course, on my YouTube channel, Influence Sees by Sees Paul. All right. I wish you guys a wonderful evening. I wish all of us a productive year, 2023, and I hope that we can all advocate more for a better life for all our people, especially fighting against gender-based violence in our society. God bless you. I want to thank Almighty God for life, for mercy, and continue to seek his protection on all our men, our women, our girls, our boys, our children, our society, our nation, our region, and the world. God bless you. Thank you. Come again.